Imagine if you ring for an ambulance and they send a hearse instead, even before the person you rang the ambulance for is deceased. That'd be kind of weird. That's what we actually do these days with transport modeling. This is a map of Singapore showing you where demand for taxis is highest. Those are the areas in red. We can use that data to predict where we should put taxis in the future. These days, there's so many new tools available based on what you do, where you go, who you talk to, that we can now suggest things for you, like where you should go for a taxi or how long you should expect to wait. We could do the same thing for health and fitness. That means you could actually be denied health just because somebody like you has a bad rep. Everything in the last 30 to 40 years has been really going towards this prediction. It was science fiction just even 20 years ago. But we're now noticing that's actually the reality. All the decision making you now see when you go on Twitter and somebody follows you, they suggest people to follow you, that's based on what you do, who you talk to, who your friends are. And on that basis, we can actually do some great stuff. We can actually pre-position ambulances, for example, so people don't have to wait very long. The dark side of that is what you do when you want to do something nasty, like arrest somebody or execute somebody for crime they have not yet committed. This is what the drone war idea is. If you think about it, an ambulance is basically a taxi, and so is a drone. One preserves life, one takes life. It wouldn't be so much of a problem if the processes which decide which one you get were open and honest. This is a Reaper drone, which is used in Pakistan and Afghanistan to wipe out enemies of the state. Unfortunately, the processes by which that's happening aren't always open to judicial review. In the last 30 days, the Intercept website has leaked this and has made a big point of displaying just how much oversight there hasn't been on who gets killed and when and for what reason. Sometimes it's as simple as you're wearing a brown pair of trousers, so we'll kill you because somebody we wanted to kill also was wearing a brown pair of trousers. Sounds like conspiracy theory. It's all there right on the Intercept website. You'll see some links on my Twitter feed at the end. But what we've got to be aware of is anything that can be used for good can also be abused. This is an intercontinental ballistic missile. It can be used to obviously wipe out cities. And for that reason, we'd like to have a way to prevent people who might use them against us from launching them in the first place. That's what a 5 megaton warhead would do to Liverpool and Manchester if it landed. Basically, there's not going to be anything left. So obviously, if we had predictive analytics to prevent something like this hitting us, that's a good idea. Current ballistic missile systems rely on detecting the launch, sending up an interceptor to hit that vehicle with a kinetic kill before it can get into its terminal phase where it would launch its multiple targeted warheads. The problem with that is it relies on seeing when that missile is launching, the plume of the refueling or the takeoff, and then getting the actual interceptor in place to hit the missile with a kinetic kill. If you've got maneuvering warheads, which go all over the place, your kinetic kill system's not going to work. So you need something better than relying on seeing it coming up and trying to knock it down. You need to hit them before they launch. You need to punish them before they've even started. This is military speak for saying we're basically going to do pre-crime on nuclear-armed nations. We're going to look at what they're doing. If they're watching certain channels, we'll decide to launch a missile on them and hit them before they can hit us. The punishment comes before the crime, except we're talking about nuclear nations here. The same thing that we can do with ambulances, sending a hearse instead of an ambulance, we can now do with nuclear nations. This is really quite worrying. Here's my personal story with this. This is a guy who spent 13 years in prison. He went to Imperial College, he was running a website. The authorities didn't like it, they put him in prison for 13 years. 7 of them, they didn't even tell him what he'd apparently done. He was released recently. This is me, Eric Masaba. I didn't do anything like that, but I do hold a patent on, funny enough, statistically predicted taxis. It just so happens I had the exact same profile, as this man. And there it is. On that basis, I couldn't get on a plane for 6 years. I couldn't get a bank account. And probably just by the grace of God, I avoided a worse fate. That's why pre-crime is very stupid, and that's what ambulances have to do with ballistic missiles. Thank you very much.
Your breaths, your profits, your time off, your fashions, your sex, your pills, your grass, your tits.